Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Hey everybody, welcome to the RotoWire Tuesday Fantasy Baseball Podcast here. Jeff Erickson with Fred Zinkie. It is March 9th. Thanks to Ottoneu and to Underdog for sponsoring us today. We're excited to have their sponsorship. There's a lot going on. It's draft season. LABR just finished last weekend. We got Tout Wars coming up in about a week and a half. Although there's a big Tout Wars draft tonight, actually, the 15-team Mixed League Snake Draft. Much like we did LABR a month ago, they're doing the Tout Wars version tonight. So that's tonight. Plus, the Zen and Now Award is going to be announced for someone in our industry, named after the great Lawr Michaels. He was really good at expanding our industry, our community. Let's get it right. And being inclusive, bringing more people in, doing a lot for the fantasy baseball world. So we're trying to reward someone every year on that. So we announced that at the start of that draft tonight. Tune in, SiriusXM Fantasy, if you hear this before the 8 o'clock draft on SiriusXM Fantasy. But Fred, there's a lot of news going on in spring training too. We're starting to get some stuff. We saw the Framber Valdez news, the Forrest Whitley news. Tied with that, the Jake Odorizzi news, him signing a 2-year deal with the Astros. I don't think it's coincidental that losing both those guys that pushed them over the edge to go get Odorizzi.
Yeah, it made perfect sense, and good for Odorizzi for waiting. Knowing that just the odds were so great that some team who wants to contend would lose a starter in the first couple weeks of spring training. So I think that's a great landing spot for Odorizzi. I'm pretty sure I drafted him in our mixed LABR draft about a month ago. I like the landing spot. Last week I said that I liked the whole Astros rotation, and especially Valdez. He was my guy. Like, I have him on all 3 teams that I've drafted so far as like my number 3 starter. He was kind of like my breakout starting pitcher. So that was really crummy. We were finished recording last week and I lost Cole Calhoun, who I have on every team that I've picked so far.
Oh no.
Within 10 minutes. I remember messaging you before I could close my computer. And then Valdez was like within 24 hours of that.
Yeah.
So after we record this week, I'm just going to maybe stay out of the news cycle for 24 hours.
It's just going to be like this. Don't see me.
Yeah.
No whammies. Yeah. No whammies. Yeah. That was me last year. I had Severino after LABR. Pagan got traded from the Rays to the Padres immediately after. And great, he's not going to close. And he didn't close. And that's bad on me because it was a part-time Rays closer anyhow. And I didn't back him up with Anderson, which turns out didn't matter as much as I thought it would. But regardless, it's funny. You can get hit with the wham stick. We haven't had too many of those yet, though. We haven't had, and the Tommy John was, of course, it was Forrest Whitley, who nobody had penciled in as a starter for the beginning of the season anyhow. Valdez was a fluke injury and a comebacker. But we haven't had like that monumentous Chris Sale, Noah Syndergaard, or Severino news about a starter with the TGS. Staying in the state of Houston, though, we do have a reliever that has a UCL sprain. That's Jonathan Hernandez. A lot of people liked his chances to be the closer, or at least put up good numbers, better numbers than Jose Leclerc. The entire bullpen in Texas is a mess right now, Fred. Whether it's Hernandez or whether it's Leclerc having visa issues and bad shoulder last year and walkitis in 2019. Who are you handicapping as the Texas closer right now?
Leclerc, I guess Leclerc. I mean, It's easy to just say this is a bullpen to avoid, but that's like, I always think that's like a little bit of a cop-out because like there will be some saves, but maybe it is a bullpen to mostly avoid in drafts. Like maybe it's a bullpen to spend some fab on if someone gets a couple saves in the first week, but I guess Leclerc, I don't really believe in him. I even feel like some of the reason we were all in on Hernandez is the way we often assess bullpens is we're like, okay, who are the closers we believe in the least? Okay, who else can we find in that bullpen who we might want to put a late round pick on? And that was Hernandez. So like I feel like the love for Hernandez was mostly like unlove for Leclerc. So
sure, that's
still there. How about this, Jeff? Would you take Leclerc in round 30 if you had a draft?
Of course. You can't get him there though.
Okay.
I already know. I mean, and certainly now you can't get him there. But even before
around 25. How about around 25?
Yeah, ADP of 317. Maybe it's close.
Oh,
so 25 you could have gotten him. It'll probably be, it'll probably be a little bit. I think it'll probably be a little closer to that now. But let's look at the competition here though. how many times do we say, I can't see a clear closer here, but then guys come out of the ether, whether it's a minor leaguer, it's a failed starter, it's a guy that's all of a sudden throwing harder. Ian Kennedy, who we were drafting as a closer last year, Fred, is in the Rangers camp. I'm writing a note right now that I have to write a projection for Kennedy now. Because let's face it, it has to be something that he's part of that picture. He's a proven veteran, knows how to do it. Leclerc was late to report from camp for visa issues, and the manager has already said he doesn't want to name a closer. Brett Martin's hurt. Joely Rodriguez is hurt. And the door is open. I mean, I think Martin and Rodriguez are minor injuries, but still, they're behind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Leclerc can't get his act together, Ian Kennedy's that's an interesting one. Like it's a total disaster last year, but 30 saves the year before. Mm-hmm. Texas isn't really competing this year. Texas isn't competing this year, so they're probably not going to want to pump up the arbitration value of any of their young pitchers by getting saves in games for a 73-win season or something like that. Right. So having the manager just go to Kennedy, and if he doesn't screw it up too much, then give him some more chances. It's totally possible. Would you take Kennedy in round 30? I don't know if I would yet.
I don't know. I need more news first.
I think there's other round 30 guys I would just rather try.
Yeah. Who else is in? So who else is in that bullpen? There's others that you can kind of take a stab at, but failed starters. Colby Allard, just got crushed last year. Remember he had that little 2019. We're like, oh, he's kind of interesting. He had a couple of good starts. Got crushed. 7.75 ERA, 151 WHIP. Now he's in the bullpen. Maybe going all out changes things for him.
Maybe. I just can't see any of those guys going straight to closer. Again, there's the arbitration stuff with someone like him, but then there's also just, when you look at their rotation, like they're going to need innings badly. They don't have any 6-inning type starters in that rotation. So if someone like Allard's in the bullpen, I could see him needing him for 2 innings. So I'll say this: if I was doing if I was an AL tout, Kennedy would be on my list for like $1 end game picks.
Yeah. I don't think Kyle Cody, who's battling for a rotation spot, is a possibility, just because I think they'd rather develop him as a starter. But, sometimes you get those failed starters too. And so, you kind of look at it from that vantage point. Okay, we spent enough time on the Rangers closing situation, as interesting as it is. But, there's an opportunity. It just illustrates this isn't going to be the first time. This isn't the first change. The last change. It's just the first. So
yeah, I know you and Scott went over like closing situations a lot on the Sunday night one, but there's 30 saves in that bullpen somewhere. They
might be dispersed in 5 ways is the problem, though.
They might be, but there's 30 saves, and there will be periods of time this year. It might not be the whole year, but there will be periods of time this year where a Rangers reliever is in lineups, at least in 15-team leagues and probably 12s, because somebody's, just like Cole Sulser last year with the Orioles, right? I can remember him being in a lot of lineups for a few weeks. It's like this will happen this year.
This guy, yeah.
And if you squeeze 3 or 4 saves out of him, who was the other one? Was it Taylor Williams from the
Mariners? The Mariners would use like 6 different guys. The Giants were a nightmare. I remember I was in on all of those there, Fred. Let me tell you how well that worked. It didn't. Narrator, it didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, other news, injury news. Trevor Rosenthal is battling a minor groin strain, but we got good news on him. Looks like he's going to be throwing today. So that's pretty good. He was shut down for 2 days. It doesn't look like that groin strain's that big. I know some people see groin and they think oblique sometimes, and sometimes that's the way it happens, or it's a hernia or something like that. Doesn't look like that's the case, at least not now. So I think we can stand down just a little bit.
Yeah, I hadn't moved him at all in my projections, so it looks like I won't need to.
Yeah, I actually had moved, and I moved him up after he signed with the A's. I really like the landing spot. Yes. I think that's a perfect spot.
Yeah, I definitely moved him up when he signed with the A's. But yeah, with the injury, it's one of those things where I feel like we need to note it on here, just because people are drafting a lot right now and they deserve to know everything that's going on.
Right.
The knowledge is power, and they should know. But full disclosure, he is injured or he's coming off an injury, but I didn't move him at all from my rankings.
Okay. Good to know. I did not move him at all either. He's in my He's in the top tier for me. I have him just as high as like Diaz and Iglesias. In fact, he's going to go a little later than Iglesias. I would take him over him, probably straight up, and I definitely take him for the price instead.
Interesting. I kind of call that my tier too. I kind of have the top closers kind of in their own tier, and then like the guys who I think are more likely to give you maybe 100 strikeouts or get like 40 saves or something like that. Although I guess Rosenthal could get 40 saves, you never know. So he's kind of in my second tier, but I have him, like you said, like around Iglesias, around Ryan Presley, things like that.
Yeah, I have them over Kenley, over Karinchak. I'm a little not super, but I'm a little wary of Karinchak just because it's the Indians and they refused to outright name him as the closer.
Yep, I took Nick Whitgren in the last round of our LABR draft. So
I remember that.
I'm glad. So far, I'm glad I did that. I don't know if it'll all work out, but there's just been, like you said, that was my thinking. And it wasn't like when we sat down to draft that night, it was like I had Whitgren circled as at round 29 written beside him. I was open-minded taking a lot of guys in the last round, but yeah, when it came time there, I was like, you know what? Who's a dart throw? It's a February draft. Like, if I'll just cut him in the first week if it doesn't work out. And I always had in the back of my head that Karinchak had never been proclaimed closer. I've never in my projections put him over 20 saves this season. I've always kept him in the teens.
Alex Bregman. I drafted him in TGFBI after I kind of talking him down because he fell all the way to 59. I felt like I had to do it. I don't like making picks like that. I dislike he's such a value here, but he hasn't made a spring training debut. They had a note today actually saying he's not expected to make his debut until the middle of next week at the earliest. He's dealing with a hamstring. He came into camp with it. He dealt with a hamstring issue last year too. I think it's almost time for a little bit of a downgrade. I might not have gotten such a great value after all.
I agree that I think maybe it's time for a little bit of a downgrade. No, I think you made a fine pick with him.
Thanks.
Yeah, I still think that, like, at that spot, I think it's just value you can't turn away from. And I know what you mean about not loving that, like, as kind of like a reason you pick someone, like the value is just too good to be true. But I have found over the years that for me that often works out fine. Like, if you just trust the judgment of the masses, and if somebody from their ADP has just fallen like so ridiculously far, and there's not a reason, like they didn't lose their job or something, have an injury or whatever, I think that's fine. My takeaway on Bregman is he was kind of going in a group with Rendon and Devers. I guess you could put Arenado in there. I'm not an Arenado guy, so this year, so whatever. I'm just not into him. Someone else can draft him. But I had Bregman, and so did everyone else, kind of right around Rendon and Devers. This hamstring would be enough for me to just say, why don't I just take Rendon or Devers instead if I wanted to take a third baseman somewhere in that pick 40, 45 range. So, but if Bregman was there and I was picking around 55, 60, like, I don't think I could say no.
I'd take Arenado over Bregman now. Suarez versus Bregman would be really close for me too.
Yep, I like Suarez. So you're preaching to the choir on that one. I'll say as of today, I would still take Bregman. In a week, if I downgrade him a little more, he'll probably fall behind. He'll fall behind Arenado for sure, and probably fall down more to where Suarez is going, which is more like, I find, like round, like pick like 75, 80. Okay,
that makes sense. All right, a couple other injuries. Big name player. Hey, Fernando Tatis, you've heard of him. He's a top player when I do my top player news. He's battling aches and pains and a non-COVID illness. He hasn't played since Friday, though Jace Tingler said that he would be in the lineup today if it were the regular season. So I guess this isn't much to worry about, but sometimes these spring training, nothing to worry about things become a little something to worry about. I think it's at least, I would put a pin in it and say, okay, let's check back in him in 2 days. If I got a draft tonight, I'm still probably, I might take Acuna and Soto and Betts over him, but I mean, if that's as far as it goes, it's not going to change more than that.
Agreed. I haven't, similar to what I said earlier with Rosenthal. I'm not moving Tatis on my list. I mean, I guess it's a reminder that the one knock on Tatis is he has yet to play a full major league season. So, but I don't think this is anything.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I think teams should pace these guys as we go through March, especially guys like Tatis, who are just clearly awesome and are going to be awesome no matter what. Like, make sure he gets his plate appearances in and some field work in. But yeah, I think they're doing the right thing here.
I think so too. David Price is not locked into a rotation spot this season. Bill Plunkett of the Orange County Register reports. News or noise, Fred?
I think news a little bit. Like I still have Price projected to make plenty of starts and throw plenty of innings, but we know because it's the Dodgers and we know how they roll. Like and they have some rotation depth right now, at least while everyone's healthy. But I think Price will still make 25 starts, 24 starts, something like that. But I'm kind of capping him there just because that's how the Dodgers roll. And kind of nothing would surprise me. Like they don't have room in their rotation for Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin. Well, maybe they'll just create room by using Price another way. I don't think that'll happen, but and the weirdness of him having opted out last season, I mean, not that the decision to opt out is weird. It just creates a weird situation that we haven't really previously dealt with. So, and he's a veteran now. So if the Dodgers did something weird where they said we're going to limit his innings, he didn't throw last year, we're going to have him throw 2 and 3 inning relief stints during April, and nothing surprises me with the way the Dodgers manage their pitchers.
Yeah.
Or I guess I should say everything surprises me, so nothing surprises me.
I haven't landed on him yet.
Same.
His ADP is around 195. I've got him around 230 or so. I've only got him for 133 innings. And so that in only 25 starts. Because, like you said, something is going to give. We know the Dodgers. They're going to find ways for Gonsolin and May to get in there. And there are others. Josiah Gray is another one that somewhere down the line, they want to find room for him, too, in this. That's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I had him priced for about 145 innings, and on this news I dropped it a little, like 135, 130, something like that, which did move him down, which does move him down because, as you know, like for people who are listening who don't make their own projections, like I know that you'll experience this, Jeff, but when you drop the innings, then you have to drop the strikeouts to match, and then you take off a win. Yeah. Like they drop. And I don't have any Price so far, but I was in the vicinity. Like there were times where he was like near the top of my list.
Yeah, same.
If this drops his ADP, then maybe I will have a Price if he starts going a lot cheaper. If it doesn't drop his ADP now, then I guess I'm out on him. But I'll need to see. But this news could kind of spread a bit, and he could have like a 2-round drop in his ADP. We'll see.
I think it kind of halts the decline in Price and May and Gonsolin. It makes you realize, oh yeah, these guys are still going to pitch, and they're even if in their bullpen they're going to go multi-inning stints, they're going to get, I would think, 100 innings apiece. It'd be my guess, and maybe even a little bit more, which makes them usable, especially in a 15-team format. Yeah,
I'm a little more. I don't have it in front of me, but I think I'm 120 or something like that. And the interesting thing about Dodgers pitchers is just that the Dodgers usually pitch so well. Like Ross Stripling last year was a bit of an anomaly in that usually if someone's in and out of a Dodgers rotation, they're frustrating from an innings reliability role standpoint, but the ratios are typically not frustrating. So sometimes I think the best plan for someone like Dustin May is, if you're going to pick him, it's just pick him and put him in your lineup and then just leave him. Like unless he gets optioned at some point. But if he's in the majors, just leave him and see what each week brings for him.
Yeah. I think that's probably the right approach there. Lorenzo Cain may not be ready for opening day. I mean, this turned into a day-to-day injury with the quadriceps to he was completely shut down last week, and it's getting tight for him to be ready by opening day. I mean, we talked about it when they signed Jackie Bradley Jr. that, this is possible that he might not be, he might not be ready. He's coming off of an opt-out. He played a couple of games, 5 games, as a matter of fact, more than a few. But, he is a lost season for him, and he's 35 years old, or will be in April. So center fielders, in 35-year-old center fielders don't often exist that frequently. You can see him move to a corner. That lessens his value a little bit. He might not run as much because it's a quad injury. You've seen Josh Donaldson try to play through a bad quad. You're a Toronto guy. You know how this ends.
Yeah, I think Cain is almost the hitting version of Price, right? Like Cain played 5 games, Price played 9. But a veteran, like an older veteran who opted out of the season, who's now coming back, and there's just a lot of questions. And with Price, now some comments from the Dodgers raise some questions. With Cain, the signing of Bradley, I think, raises some questions. Now, I think the Bradley signing was fine, even if Cain is full strength. But you wonder. The Brewers didn't sign Bradley in January, although I guess not many people signed in January. But maybe the Brewers are looking around and thinking, I don't know how much we can count on this 35-year-old Cain who didn't play last year. Avisail Garcia really struggled last year. Jackie Bradley Jr. is an awesome defender who's okay offensively. Let's give him a contract, and now we can mix and match with Cain and Garcia.
Yep, I think that's right. That's right. And who knows? Maybe Garcia even finds a way into the first base mix every once in a while, even though that's crowded right now. You never know. So that's something to watch for. Ozzie Albies scratched today with a stiff neck. Yeah, it's exactly the type of injury that I'm not worried about at all. I think it's just more of a launch point to talk about Ozzie Albies. Where do you stand on him?
I like him. I've always been so far like a bit of an Albies guy. I like the things I like about Albies. I love where he hits in the lineup, in such a good lineup. Like just batting among Acuna, Freeman, and Ozuna, I think is awesome. And then he's a second baseman, and second base is not great this year. So just locking that up early, I think, gives you a lot more flexibility. And then he's a bit of a power speed mix. Like, he's not a great base stealer, but you can get 15 steals from him. So, if you can get 20-something homers, about 15 steals, and I think the runs and RBIs will be there just from his lineup spot as long as he hits fine. Now, the concern with Albies will be that if he struggles, they could put Dansby Swanson up there and just move Albies down the lineup. And now all of a sudden I'm not so bullish on him. But I always liked him. I think he's fine in round 3. I don't have any shares of Albies yet, but it's because I just haven't had the draft spot I find to get him. He's not. I've always picked in the middle or the end of my drafts so far. Unfortunately.
I find others I like better than him at the beginning of the third round. Like, for instance, I prefer Xander Bogaerts, although he now has his own health issues with the shoulder. I prefer Eloy. I prefer a lot of the pitchers that I'm going to get there. I've only had one draft, a 15-teamer that I drafted beginning of in the early spot. That was TGFBI, which we're going to talk about in a second here. The other thing is, batting order is not necessarily guaranteed. He batted, he missed time last year with an injury, so that affects things. He batted 10th in the 2 spot, but he also batted 7 times in the 9th spot, which, second leadoff hitter and all, but no, that's not a great spot.
Not good. No, that's my one pullback on him. And I understand what you said about Bogaerts, and I'm not as much on Jimenez as some people, but I understand what you said about Bogaerts. But what I'm noticing when I draft so far is if I don't have a second baseman until I'm kind of filling out my lineup, the same thing you said about Bogaerts versus Albies, I will find that, but even more with the shortstops who are left versus the second baseman who are left, or the outfielders who are left versus the second baseman who are left. So if Albies or Whit Merrifield or DJ LeMahieu or Kevin Biggio or whatever, if those guys are like near the top of my queue, using my rankings, I'm becoming more and more interested in just jumping a couple outfielders to take them.
Okay.
And just knowing that later I'll be happy that I did, because I'm not loving the late round second baseman right now.
Yeah.
I'd love to find one who I love.
So I'm okay. I like Cesar Hernandez late. I like who else do I like late at second baseman? I've done the late second baseman thing a couple of times. I find it's okay. I mean, I don't like, it's funny. I don't love Dylan Moore, and yet I got him in TGFBI, but so maybe it's a bad point. I don't like the draft cost of Jonathan VR. I think as a part-time player, he goes too high. I don't love Solak. I kind of like Andres Jimenez. I kind of like Segura. Cronenworth really slipped in TGFBI. I don't like the price of Madrigal. I kind of like David Fletcher. I like Gavin Lux a lot. I think he'll start going higher, but I do like him around pick 200 or later. I love him. I even like Joey Wendell really late, or Colton Wong pretty late too. So I actually kind of am comfortable with the late second baseman. I guess I'm a little bit different.
Yeah, a lot of the names you mentioned, I'm just not that bullish on.
Okay. So
but there's a lot of late outfielders I like, and there's late shortstops who I like. So, and I think that just what we're talking about here is it's just like we're doing a great example of that bottom up draft planning.
Yep.
Like, you've got a bunch of second basemen who you like. I'm finding when I just look at like my projections and my rankings versus ADP, if we hit pick 300, pick 350, whatever, I'm finding the highest ranked guys left on my list are often shortstops or outfielders, which then steers me towards a second baseman early. Like, I wouldn't jump someone who I wouldn't jump Bo Bichette for any of the second basemen, for example, because I like Bichette a fair amount more than them if it was around the 2-3 turn. And
but he's going mid second around now.
Yeah,
sometimes late, but
yeah. So I wouldn't jump, like, that's what I mean. Like, I wouldn't jump like a lot, but if it was similar, then I definitely consider the second baseman just to have that spot locked up. I'd say the same thing for probably first and third too, a little bit. Like, I think just the theory of selection, I just am more okay waiting on outfield.
Mm-hmm.
There's just 3 times as many starting outfielders in the major leagues, so there's a much greater chance that there'll be one out there in a late round or 2 in a late round that I like more than everybody else.
Right on. I see, and that's your comfort level. That's your research digging into the back ends of the draft and building backwards up. Brandon Belt, final news note. Not yet ready for game action. He had surgery to remove a bone spur in his right heel in October, and he's not even playing in spring training games yet. Opening day seems at doubt here. Unfortunately, that's the norm when it comes to Brandon Belt, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's why you can't project him for too many plate appearances, right? Like, if you want to go by at bats, since we're dealing with batting average in most leagues, like if you want to project him for 400, 420, maybe get optimistic, go 440, something like that, that's fine. If Brandon Belt could put together some more seasons of 500, 530 at bats, that would be great, but it's probably not going to happen. So I've kind of bumped him down now. I'm fine with still drafting him in a 15 and putting him on my bench, but obviously you're going to need another first baseman before that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Before we jump on to talk TGFBI, even though we've alluded to it before, quick note from our friends at Underdog. Fantasy baseball is here, and you've got a chance to check out these new best ball leagues on Underdog. Best ball is the ultimate test of your live draft skills since there's no in-season management. That's right. Draft your team, and Underdog automatically credits you with your best performing players every week. You don't need to play the waiver wire or worry about trades. It's just the draft. Who doesn't love drafting? In Underdog Best Ball, you can draft as many times as you want because you don't have to do any roster management, saving you loads of time. Underdog's Best Ball leagues are drafting right now, starting as low as $3. Once the season starts, Underdog also has daily fantasy and an all-new Pick'em game. Go download the Underdog app now and get in on some Best Ball before the season starts. Enter promo code RotoWire with your first deposit, and Underdog will honor a money-back guarantee during your first month. Love Underdog or get your money back with promo code RotoWire. Search Underdog in your app store and enter promo code RotoWire.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.